Certainly. Here's Section I, The Spark of War. The Healers Betrayed, written in a narrative format with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section I, The Spark of War. The Healers Betrayed. In the year 2378, Earth was known not for its weapons, but for its mercy. After centuries of bloodshed, ecological collapse, and rebirth through unity, humanity had stepped away from the edge. The wars had stopped. Borders dissolved. Armies disbanded. Instead of expanding through conquest, Earth reached the stars with open hands and open hearts. From this renaissance came the healers, not just doctors but empaths, geneticists, nanotechnologists, conflict de-escalators, and trauma specialists. Where war ravaged alien civilizations, Earth sent its healers, not to take sides, but to mend the broken. They were Earth's greatest offering to the galaxy, a testament to the belief that compassion could outlive violence. Every galactic power recognized the sacred neutrality of healers. They wore pristine white uniforms with a universal sigil, a silver helix entwined around a single drop of water. To strike a healer was to reject the very notion of civilization. Even pirates left them unharmed. And so, when war broke out on Kalos 4, a burning jungle planet torn between the native Kilari and the expanding Krell Dominion, Earth responded with its usual grace. A convoy of healers, more than 400 of them, was dispatched. They carried field hospitals, adaptive shelter units, nanosurgeons, and advanced trauma drones. Among them were empaths like Dr. Layla Morse, who could calm frenzied minds with the faintest harmonic speech, and bioengineers like Vikram Sani, who could regrow organs from a single stem cell within hours. None carried weapons. They needed none. Their protection was their purpose. The Kilari welcomed them. The Krell, initially hostile, sent emissaries with a surprising proposal, a ceasefire, if only temporary, to allow for humanitarian intervention in the most devastated regions. The transmission was respectful. The Krell's supreme tactician, General Rostor, even addressed Earth directly. We recognize your legacy of mercy. Let us not fear your presence. Let us welcome it, for the sake of our wounded. It was a lie. 2 days after the ceasefire, while the healers were establishing clinics in the war-torn city of Veltharak, the skies darkened, not with weather, but with Krell warships. The orbital defense network they had claimed to disable for maintenance was, in fact, fully operational. Precision strikes began before anyone on the surface could react. Hospitals were the first to go. Drone footage later recovered showed them clearly. Krell gravity bombs detonating on trauma tents. Mobile cryo units vaporized with patients still inside. Nano-drone swarms, repurposed and corrupted, turned against the wounded, consuming flesh in seconds. Healers were executed in the streets, some while shielding Kilari children. The betrayal was deliberate. It was broadcast across the galaxy on Krell networks, their soldiers chanting, "Mercy is weakness. Peace is death." In one sickening clip, a Krell commander dragged Dr. Layla Morse into frame and tore her identification patch off before executing her with a plasma lance. The Galactic Concord, a loose alliance of interstellar governments and corporate empires, responded with bureaucracy. Investigations were launched. Committees convened. Sanctions discussed. But Earth, watching its children die in white coats, wasn't interested in patience. Back home, the planet fell silent. Billions gathered in their cities, their homes, and digital public squares to watch the footage again and again. Not 1 second was censored. Not one image softened. In Antarctica, beneath a kilometer of ice, an ancient failsafe awoke for the first time in 160 years. Protocol Seraphim. There had once been a time when Earth feared annihilation. Not from alien powers, but from itself. To survive, it had created monsters in its own image, soldiers built to end wars through overwhelming, calculated force. These weren't soldiers as we know them. They were something more, and something less. Enhanced, engineered, unbreakable. Their loyalty unquestionable. Their judgment absolute. When peace finally came, Humanity chose to seal them away. But peace had just been butchered. The order came from the United Earth Council in only 7 words. Asterisk, the healers have fallen. Wake the angels. Asterisk. And so Earth's true defense, forgotten by most, feared by all, prepared to rise again. From the ashes of mercy, wrath would be born. Would you like me to proceed with Section 2 next? Absolutely. Here's Section 2, the awakening of the angels of death, with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 2, the awakening of the angels of death. The Antarctic vault was not the only one. From the dust-laden catacombs of Mars' Valles Marineris to the icebound halls beneath Siberia's oldest mountain ranges, to orbital black site stations circling Jupiter's moons. Asterisk protocol Seraphim, asterisk activated, in perfect synchrony. Locked AIs that had not spoken in over a century stirred, checked their core code, and found the condition met. Asterisk, if Earth's healers are killed in violation of galactic law, revive Counterforce Seraphim. Asterisk. Vault after vault hissed open with ancient steam and sterile light. Inside cryopods reinforced with neutronium alloy, humanity's most fearsome weapons waited. Not machines, not mere humans, but something in between. The angels of death. There had once been 3,000 of them. Built over 3 decades of Earth's darkest military experimentation during the late intercontinental collapse. Now, only 1028 remained viable in stasis, enough, but only just. They were not born in wombs, nor grown in vats. The angels had been chosen, volunteers from every nation, every language, every faith. Soldiers who had endured, medics who had refused to leave the wounded, pilots who flew into hopeless battles. Then rebuilt. Their bones had been alloyed with carbon weave and titanium lattice. Their muscles were reinforced with mymer fibers. Their senses were augmented, sight beyond the visible spectrum, hearing calibrated to battlefield acoustics, nerve reflexes measured in microseconds. Nanites repaired their cells. Their brains were laced with neural processors that interfaced directly with combat AIs. Each angel also had a halo, a personal artificial intelligence surgically bonded to their neural cortex. The halos were more than assistants. They were companions, tacticians, drone commanders, conscience. Together, they were more than human and far more than machine. They were designed for one purpose: judgment. As the pods opened, each angel was greeted by a flickering hologram showing the massacre of Kalos 4. Not the cleaned-up Concord version. The full, raw stream. Screams. Begging. Fire.
Ash.
And, at the end, a single message. The healers bled.
Peace is broken.
Rise. Seraphim 017, codename Raziel, stood first. 7 feet tall. A skin of matte black armor beneath regrown flesh. Eyes that flickered gold as his halo, ARCHAI, synced to his cognition. Situation? Raziel rasped, his voice slow after decades of sleep. Target: Krell Dominion. 57 confirmed strikes on non-combatant medical units. Civilian casualties: 14,000 plus. Healer deaths: 411. Orders: Extinction Protocol. Raziel nodded once. Around him, others stirred. Uriel, Azazel, Cassiel, Anael. Some blinked into consciousness quietly. Others screamed as war memories flooded back. But none hesitated. From the United Earth Council's underground war chamber in Geneva, President Lena Thorne stood before 100 holoscreens displaying the galaxy. "This is not a declaration of war," she said. "This is not conquest. This is execution. The Krell thought mercy was our weakness. Let them learn our mercy was a choice." Every nation ratified the order in unison. Even former pacifist blocs stood behind it. Across the galaxy, Earth citizens, once scholars, farmers, engineers, watched the sleeping wrath of their ancestors rise. The Angels' armor was reassembled. Their ships, each a mobile fortress, cloaked and armed with weapons forbidden by the Concord, were recommissioned. AI halos uploaded fresh stellar charts, recalibrated quantum slip drives, and activated hunter-seeker drones. One angel, Seraphim 104, Soraya, looked at herself in the mirror. She remembered once being a pediatric surgeon, a woman of science, a woman of peace. Now, her fingers extended into razor-edge vibroblades. Her skin bristled with microreactive shielding. Her eyes glowed with targeting overlays. "I was never meant to rise again," she whispered. Her halo, Muriel, responded gently. "They murdered the children." Soraya said nothing. She didn't need to. Across the stars, the first Krell command centers picked up movement. Silent warships appearing where there should be none. Defense satellites failed to track them. Automated warnings screamed across Krell territory. They were too late. The Angels of Death launched in coordinated waves, each pair of Angel and Halo assigned a target world, a fleet, or a manufacturing system. Their insertion points weren't random. They were strategically chosen to ensure maximum psychological devastation. This was not war. This was a culling. Within the first hour of deployment, 12 Krell military outposts had gone dark. Their deaths were quiet,
Fast.
clinical. No broadcasts. No mercy. Panic surged in the galactic concord. The Krell Dominion screamed foul. They demanded a ceasefire, offered a tribunal, reparations. But Earth didn't respond. The Concord tried to contact Earth's diplomats, only to find the communication lines rerouted. Earth was silent, except for one transmission. An ancient, encoded pulse sent to every inhabited world. "You murdered the healers. Now the Angels of Death walk again. We will not negotiate. We will not pause. We are already among you." In the quiet corridors of Earth's now empty medical academies, the statues of healers remained untouched. Garlands of morning flowers withered in the halls. Candles flickered in empty lecture halls. And far above, streaking toward vengeance, the angels burned through the void. Peace was over. Retribution had begun. Would you like to continue with Section 3? Retribution Unleashed next? Certainly. Here's Section 3. Retribution Unleashed with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 3. Retribution Unleashed. The Krell had no concept of what awaited them. Their war machine, vast and brutal, had devastated countless worlds. But nothing in their history had prepared them for the coming fury of Earth's angels. The first strike came on Zenthos Prime. A once vibrant industrial world, it had been the Krell's crown jewel. Where their war machines were built, their fleet was reinforced, and their soldiers were bred. The Zenthos system was home to the legendary Krell Forge, the heart of their military-industrial complex. The angelic force descended with surgical precision, making no attempt to negotiate or hold back. Seraphim 121, Cassiel, stood alone on the bridge of the Judgment, a sleek, black warship that could silence entire fleets with a single volley. His halo, SYNTHI, pulsed at his side, an ever-present hum of intelligence. The targeting arrays were already calibrated. Every strike was already accounted for in Cassiel's mind. "Initiate the strike," Cassiel ordered, his voice cool, devoid of emotion. The halo responded in its soft, melodic tone. Coordinates locked. Calculating optimal trajectory. A single click echoed in the cold expanse of the warship's bridge. The Angels of Death didn't waste time. The Judgment's weapon systems fired, and with an eerie calmness, massive orbital cannons unleashed their fury. A planet-wide bombardment of energy blasts descended like lightning, tearing apart the vast industrial sprawl of the forge. The surface rippled as though the planet itself were trying to escape the violence. Factories collapsed, entire regions turned to molten slag, and the once proud Krell war machines that had been crafted in secret bunkers were now twisted metal and burning ruin. In the hours that followed, Cassiel's tactics remained simple and brutal. Using a fleet of drones, he decimated Krell command outposts, ensuring no survivors, no communication to warn their allies. Within 48 hours, Zenthos Prime had ceased to exist as a functioning Krell world. It became a graveyard. The Krell were beginning to understand that Earth's healers had not just been mourned by their species, they had been avenged. Seraphim 036. Oriel descended next on Thalathar, a barren rock planet where the Krell had stationed one of their largest weapons silos. It was a planet without any real military value, just a necessary part of the Krell's sprawling war logistics. The Krell had assumed they could leave it unprotected, underestimating the sheer lethality of the Angels. Uriel's landing was a spectacle of destruction. His sheer size, towering over 7 feet in height, was imposing. His armor, black with silver filigree, shone under the dim star. His halo, LUX, projected a glowing arc of energy that swept across the barren landscape as drones swarmed to the surface. Uriel's mission was simple: neutralize the weapons silo and erase any hope of Krell counterattacks in the region. Approach the silo's main entry. Deploy the energy disruptor. Uriel ordered, his voice calm but filled with undeniable authority. The halo responded with a quiet, confirmed. Within moments, Uriel activated a devastating electromagnetic pulse, sending waves of disorienting static through the Krell defensive systems. The silo's force shields flickered, faltered, and then fell completely. The Krell, having no idea that their defenses were already compromised, launched their countermeasures, but it was too late. Uriel charged, his massive form like a storm incarnate. His nanite-enhanced blades cut through metal like paper, slicing through the reinforced doors with ease. Inside, Krell soldiers scrambled, terrified and unprepared for the magnitude of the assault. Uriel's energy lance ignited, and in a single swipe, he decimated the control room. But it wasn't just about destruction. Uriel was sending a message. As the last of the Krell officers fell, he left a reminder, a single message carved into the wall of the silo. Mercy is dead. The Angels have come. Meanwhile, the Krell Dominion's high command sat in stunned silence. The first reports from the outer colonies had trickled in, and the messages were the same. Angels. There were no specifics, no clear descriptions. Only fear, uncertainty, and horror. But that uncertainty evaporated when the Krell flagship, Dominance, a colossal warship capable of destroying entire fleets with a single volley, came under fire. Seraphim 003, Azazel was at the helm. Azazel had been awake the longest of all the Angels, and his rage was unmatched. His orders were simple: obliterate the Krell leadership. He did not hesitate. His ship, Divine Judgment, entered the Krell flagship's immediate vicinity, undetected by their systems. With a single command, Azazel activated the Divine Judgment's quantum displacer. The warship's mass bent, folding into the heart of the Krell fleet, its cannons targeting the Krell flagship's main reactor. The explosion that followed was one of impossible proportions. Krell soldiers who survived the initial explosion reported hearing Azazel's voice, a final, whispered message through their comms. You should never have shed healer blood. The message was as clear as the blast that followed. The Krell began to fracture under the relentless onslaught. Their colonies, once bastions of military might, fell in hours. Military leaders were forced to abandon their positions, fleeing from one system to the next, but no matter how fast they moved, the Angels of Death were faster. Seraphim 112, Anael and her partner, Halo Zenith, laid waste to a Krell shipyard in the Gila system. They used a combination of direct combat and psychological warfare. Before they struck, they broadcasted images of the Healer massacre, making sure that every Krell officer and soldier saw the carnage they had caused. Your empire is built on blood, Anael whispered as her weapons hummed with cold fury. Now you will drown in it. By the time the Krell realized the extent of the Angels' reach, it was too late. Their once impenetrable military apparatus was shattered. Their morale was broken, and their systems crumbled under the weight of unrelenting precision. The Krell Dominion had no defense against the Angels. By the end of the first month, more than a third of their fleet had been destroyed. Multiple key systems had been neutralized. The very infrastructure they had once built their strength on was now nothing more than cinders. And the Angels of Death weren't done. Not by a long shot. Would you like me to continue with Section 4, the aftermath and a new peace next?
Certainly.
Here's Section 4, the aftermath and a new peace with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 4, the aftermath and a new peace. The fury of Earth's vengeance had painted the stars in fire. The Krell Dominion, once one of the most feared empires in the galaxy, was now a fractured and broken shell of its former self. The Angels of Death had hunted them relentlessly, leaving a path of destruction across star systems. Their once impenetrable defenses were crumbling, their fleets scattered, and their warlords hunted like prey. There was no hiding from the wrath of Earth's fallen healers. No escape from the judgment of the angels. But in the aftermath of war, there comes a reckoning, a moment when even the most ruthless realize they are no longer the predators, but the prey. Krell High Command had been reduced to a fragmented, disoriented group of leaders in exile. The Supreme War Council, once a hub of power on the capital world of Zerther Prime, had fled to the deepest reaches of their empire, scattered and uncertain. General Rostor, the once proud tactician, was no longer able to command, as his forces had been obliterated. The Emperor's personal warship, Ascendant Glory, was found floating aimlessly in an asteroid field, a hollow reminder of the greatness the Krell had once held. In a final, desperate act of defiance, the Krell offered Earth an ultimatum, a ceasefire and peace negotiations. They acknowledged their failures, their atrocities. They requested a meeting. And for the first time in months, there was silence. Earth had learned many lessons over the centuries, especially the harshest ones. While humanity had ascended from the ashes of its own wars, the Krell had waged violence with impunity. It was no surprise that Earth's leadership, the United Earth Council, found themselves at a crossroads. The Council convened in secret, deep within the ancient stronghold of Mount Olympus, an underground facility beneath the polar ice caps of Earth's southernmost continent. The president of the United Earth Council, Lena Thorne, was not a woman to make hasty decisions, especially in the wake of such overwhelming violence. As the leader of the planet, she could feel the weight of every lost life. But even more than the bodies that had fallen, it was the future of humanity that weighed heavily on her shoulders. Peace, she muttered to herself, pacing in the dimly lit war room. Can there be peace after such destruction? Her advisors, some veterans of Earth's interstellar expeditions, others pacifists who had spent their careers as diplomats, shared her unease. There was a palpable tension in the air. The healers had been slaughtered, their work obliterated. The Krell had proven that even the most sacred principles, compassion, mercy, healing, could be turned to ash. And yet, in the midst of their retribution, a decision had to be made. On Zerther Prime, General Rostor awaited the outcome with a mix of dread and resignation. His once mighty forces had been wiped out in a matter of weeks, and the remnants of his people had abandoned any notion of counterattack. The Krell had no choice now but to sue for peace, or risk complete extinction. The Krell Supreme Council issued an official message to Earth. We acknowledge our crimes. We seek the restoration of peace. We have no choice but to face the wrath we have sown. The Krell Dominion is no more. And so, in the shadow of a galaxy that still burned from the consequences of their actions, Earth's leadership began to consider the possibility of something greater, a new era, not of domination, but of intergalactic unity. The peace negotiations began in earnest. Both sides gathered, Earth's delegates, under the leadership of President Thorne, and the Krell remnants, led by a newly appointed emissary, Senator Velcro, a former warlord who had long since lost his taste for violence. The location was Eridani V, a neutral world at the edge of the galaxy, a once thriving center of commerce, now a desolate world where only the most desperate or disillusioned took refuge. The planet was chosen for its isolation, a place where old wounds could begin to heal. The peace talks were unprecedented. There were no military threats, no demands for immediate surrender or retaliation. Instead, the focus was on the future, on rebuilding, on forgiveness, and on shared responsibility. President Thorne, who had once been an advocate for absolute peace, now had to navigate a world where retribution had been carried out and where the temptation for complete obliteration still lingered. "We did not send the angels to conquer," President Thorne said in her opening statement. "We sent them to restore justice. And in the process, we found ourselves faced with a new question: what do we do when vengeance is satisfied?" Senator Velcro, his alien face lined with age and regret, responded quietly. "You have shown us that mercy is a choice, a powerful one, but we are not beyond redemption. We must earn our way back into the galaxy's fold, together." The path forward was not easy. The Krell needed to answer for the suffering they had caused, but there was no easy way to do so. Reparation programs were discussed, not just in terms of material wealth, but in education, technology, and even offering their most advanced medical treatments to worlds in need. The once crippled Krell Empire would be tasked with helping the very civilizations they had once oppressed. Earth, too, had its role to play in this new peace. It would share its knowledge, its resources, and its innovations, but only in a way that ensured it would not return to the isolationist policies of the past. The healers, though fallen, had left behind their legacy, a reminder that compassion, when it was not just a weapon but a choice, could change the course of history. In the quiet aftermath of the negotiations, Earth's military advisors reported that the Angels of Death, once unleashed to avenge the fallen, were now withdrawn. They had returned to their ancient crypts beneath Earth's surface, dormant once more. But their existence had become a myth, a terrifying legend, a silent reminder that even in times of peace, the past was never truly gone. As for the galaxy, it slowly began to heal, too. The Krell, broken and humbled, would never again be a threat. Earth's healers had become more than just symbols of peace. They had become legends of mercy, teaching the galaxy that even the most devastating force could be tempered by understanding. And so, peace, hard-earned and fragile, took root once more. The lessons of the Angels of Death were not just about vengeance, but about the power of choice. The choice to forgive, the choice to rebuild, and the choice to never forget. The stars were silent once again. Would you like to expand or adjust any part of the story? Or would you like further details on any specific aspect?